Princess Aurelia walked down the long metal hall of the Dragon Palace with slow steps. Her father, the Dragon Emperor Varkalos, had called her in front of the court earlier, and everyone had whispered after he announced her gift. She did not argue, she did not cry, and she did not show fear. But inside her heart was heavy. She knew her father disliked her gentle nature. He said she was soft, weak, too quiet for a daughter of dragons. Today, he had found a new way to shame her. He gave her a captured human starship, old, damaged, rusted, and almost dead. He said she would live there and learn to respect the power she lacked. The court laughed. The generals bowed with mocking smiles. Even the servants hid their grins. But Aurelia only lowered her head and accepted the order. No one knew why she did not fight back. No one knew that she was simply tired of the cruelty of the palace. Now she stood before the landing zone. Her escort of guards opened the gate and pointed toward the old ship as if presenting a ruined animal. The ship looked weak and broken, with scars across its hull. The lights flickered like tired eyes struggling to stay awake. It floated on support cables, as if it might fall apart any second. A tall human stood near the entrance ramp. His clothes were simple, old from work, and covered with small metal stains. His name was Jackson Reed, a mechanic forced to work for the Empire. He had been a prisoner for years, fixing whatever they ordered him to fix. Aurelia had never met him before, and he had never seen a dragon princess up close. He expected someone angry, loud, and filled with pride. Instead, he saw a young woman with calm purple eyes, wearing a light robe instead of heavy armor. She looked like someone searching for peace. Jackson bowed quickly, more out of habit than respect. "Princess," he said in a steady tone. "Welcome to, this place." He tried to smile, but it came out awkward and crooked. He knew the ship was a joke. This was a place for rejected tools, not royal daughters. Aurelia stepped closer. Her hand touched the ship's metal surface. It felt cold and rough, yet something about it felt familiar, almost like it was waiting for her. "My father wishes me to stay here," she said quietly. Jackson raised an eyebrow. "Here? On this wreck?" The guard behind her chuckled. One whispered, "Let her see where she belongs." Aurelia ignored them. She only looked at Jackson, and he suddenly felt strange. No dragon had ever looked at him without hate or power in their eyes. She looked at him like he was a person. "Will you show me inside?" she asked softly. Jackson blinked. "Of course, if you don't mind the mess." He walked up the ramp, and she followed. The guards stayed outside, still laughing among themselves. Once the doors closed, their voices faded away, and silence filled the narrow halls of the ship. Inside, the lights flickered weakly. The air smelled of metal dust and old oil. Broken panels hung from the ceiling, and wires lay across the floor like thin vines. But Aurelia did not wrinkle her nose or complain. She touched each damaged wall with careful hands, as if trying to understand the ship's pain. "You're not scared?" Jackson asked as he adjusted a nearby panel. "Should I be?" she replied. "Well, most dragons hate this place. Or me." Aurelia looked at a corner, where a small lamp he had fixed shined with a soft glow. "You made that light work again," she said. "Why would I hate that?" Jackson stared at her, unsure how to answer. He was used to shouts, orders, and insults. Her calm words felt like a warm breeze in a cold room. He cleared his throat. "I try to keep the ship alive, even if the Empire doesn't care." "Thank you for that," she said. "It is kind." No one had thanked him in years. The simple words hit him harder than he expected. He walked her to a small room near the center, dusty, cramped, but still the cleanest space on the ship. "This was the captain's quarters," he said. "It's yours now. I can make it better." Aurelia stepped inside and looked around. The room was small, but it was quiet. It felt more honest than the palace. No lies, no false smiles, just a place that needed care. She sat gently on the old chair. "This is fine." Jackson shook his head. "It's not fine, but it will be." He spoke without thinking, but Aurelia smiled. For a moment, the ship seemed less broken. Outside, the Dragon Emperor believed he had humiliated his daughter. He thought she would feel shame and helplessness. But inside this forgotten human starship, something different began. Jackson saw someone who was not the cruel image of the Empire. Aurelia saw a human whose hands made light in dark places. And the ship, silent for many years, felt the first touch of hope. It was the start of something no one expected. Not humiliation, but the beginning of a strange and powerful connection. Jackson woke early the next morning, long before the guards came to check the ship. His small workshop inside the old starship was already warm with the soft hum of tools and quiet machines he had repaired over the years. He worked with focus, but his mind kept drifting to the princess now sleeping in the captain's quarters. He had never met a dragon who spoke gently, who listened, or who thanked him. It made something inside him feel strange, like a spark waking up after being cold for too long. Aurelia woke slowly. For the first time in years, she did not hear shouting outside her door or feel the pressure-cord eyes watching her. Instead, she heard the steady rhythm of tools tapping and the low sound of a human humming a tune. She sat up in the small bed and looked around. The room was plain, but she liked it. It felt like her own space, something she never truly had in the palace. She stepped into the hallway. Jackson was kneeling beside a wall panel, covered in dust and working with careful hands. When he heard her, he looked up and rubbed the back of his neck. "Morning, Princess," he said. "I'm trying to get the heating system to work. The nights get cold in this sector." Aurelia sat on the floor beside him without hesitation. "Do you need help?" He stared at her, unsure if she was joking. "Help? From a princess." "Yes," she said. "I can hold things, at least." Jackson laughed softly. It was the first real laugh he had made in years. He handed her a small tool. "Hold this steady." She held it carefully while he tightened the wires. For a moment their hands brushed, and Aurelia felt a warm flicker she could not explain. Jackson felt it too, but looked away quickly. "You learn fast," he said. "I listen," she replied. For hours they worked together. Jackson showed her how circuits connected, how broken lines could be repaired, and how even a dying ship still had life inside it. Aurelia watched every movement like it mattered. She liked the way he cared for the ship, like it was alive. While they worked, Jackson told her things he had never said out loud. He spoke about Earth, about how he missed the oceans and the sunsets. He talked about his old workshop filled with human tools and old music. Aurelia listened with quiet eyes. "You miss your home," she said softly. "Every day," he admitted. Aurelia lowered her head. "I know that feeling." Jackson stopped turning his wrench. "You do." "My home is a palace," she said. "Big, bright, and full of power. But it never felt like a home to me. I was always alone, even when I wasn't alone." Jackson looked at her with a new kind of respect. She was not the spoiled royal he expected. She was someone who understood emptiness. The heating system finally hummed to life, sending warm air through the vents. Aurelia smiled with honest joy. "You fixed it," she said. "We fixed it," he corrected. Before she could answer, the ship lights flickered weakly. Jackson frowned. "That's strange. The power core shouldn't be shifting like that." Aurelia touched the wall. "It feels nervous." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "Nervous?" She nodded, like it remembered something. He stared at her for a long moment, then sighed. "Well, the ship is old. Could be anything. Let's check the core." They walked together to the engine room. It was darker than the rest of the ship, filled with shadows and broken machines. But in the center, the core pulsed with a dim blue light. Aurelia stepped closer. "This is beautiful." "Beautiful?" Jackson laughed. "It's barely working. It needs half its parts replaced." She reached out and placed her hand gently on the metal. The core brightened, just a little, but enough to catch Jackson's breath. "Did you see that?" he asked. Aurelia lifted her hand again. The core dimmed. She touched it once more. The light rose again. Jackson was speechless. How are you doing that?" "I don't know," she whispered. For the first time since she left the palace, Aurelia felt something strong inside her. Not fear, not sadness, but a spark. A spark that answered the pulse of the ship. Jackson stepped beside her. "Maybe the ship recognizes you." Aurelia's eyes softened. Maybe it recognizes something I didn't know I had. They stayed there in the soft glow, side by side, both feeling something quiet but powerful building between them. Outside, the guard still believed the princess was sitting in shame. The emperor believed she was suffering. But inside the old ship, two people were fixing more than metal. They were waking forgotten power. And the spark between them was only growing brighter. Aurelia stood in front of the glowing core, her eyes wide with quiet wonder. The engine room felt warmer than before, as if it had suddenly woken up from a long sleep. Jackson watched her closely, trying to understand how her touch had changed the ship. He had repaired cores his whole life, but he had never seen one respond like this. It made him feel small and amazed at the same time. The core pulsed again, brighter than before, sending a soft hum through the metal floor. Aurelia didn't move away. Instead, she placed her hand on it a second time, calmer now, as if she trusted the strange light. Jackson stepped closer, ready to pull her back if anything went wrong, but nothing exploded. Nothing burned. The core seemed almost gentle with her. "It remembers me," Aurelia whispered. Jackson shook his head. "This thing is thousands of years older than you." "Maybe it remembers my kind," she said. "Dragons touched old machines long ago. My father used to speak of ancient ships that obeyed dragon blood." Jackson froze. "Blood." Aurelia lowered her gaze. "That's why my father hates me. My bloodline is weaker than his. He thinks I don't deserve anything old or powerful." Jackson frowned. "That's stupid." Aurelia blinked at him, surprised by how casually he said it. He continued, "Power isn't about blood. It's about the person. And you're the kindest person I've met out here." The soft glow of the core made her cheeks warm. No one had ever said such a thing to her. Not honestly. Not without fear or hidden meaning. Before she could respond, the ship's lights flickered again. This time, the floor vibrated softly under their feet. Something deeper inside the ship was waking. "What's happening?" she asked. Jackson grabbed a scanner and checked the readings. "The power output, it's increasing. But I didn't fix anything that could cause this." The ship released a soft chime, like a distant bell. A panel near the far wall slid open slowly, revealing a narrow hallway filled with soft blue mist. Aurelia stepped back in awe. "That wasn't there before," Jackson said. The hallway led downward, somewhere hidden beneath the ship for years, maybe centuries. Jackson swallowed hard. This must be part of the old systems. Something meant only for pilots. Aurelia looked at him, or for someone the ship accepts. They followed the hallway together. The deeper they walked, the quieter the ship became. The air was cold, but the blue mist curled around Aurelia like it recognized her. Jackson noticed it but kept walking, determined to stay by her side. At the end of the hall, they found a round chamber with walls shaped like curved petals. Symbols glowed faintly across the surface, written in an ancient dragon script. Aurelia gasped. "This is dragon language. Very old." "What does it say?" Jackson asked. She stepped closer and traced her fingers over the symbols. "It speaks of a chosen guide, someone who can unlock the ship's heart, someone who carries courage, not cruelty." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "Doesn't mention dragon blood?" Aurelia shook her head slowly. "No, it only speaks of spirit." Jackson turned toward her. "Then maybe it chose you because it sees you, not because of your father or your past." Aurelia felt a tightness in her chest. She wasn't used to being seen in that way. All her life she had been judged by her weakness, her quiet voice, her lack of aggression. But this ancient ship, this old machine with forgotten power, it saw something else. In the center of the round chamber was a small pedestal. On it sat a glowing shard of crystal shaped like a teardrop. It pulsed softly, in rhythm with the ship's core. "What is that?" Jackson whispered. Aurelia stepped forward. "I think it's a key." She placed her hand over the shard. The moment her skin touched it, the whole chamber brightened. The walls glowed with swirling symbols, and the floor vibrated gently. The shard lifted into the air and floated above her hand. Jackson stared in disbelief. "You activated it." Aurelia's hair swayed as warm energy circled her. She didn't feel fear. Instead, she felt as if the ship was speaking directly into her heart, telling her she was worthy of something she never thought she deserved. The shard settled into her palm, soft and warm. Jackson stepped closer. "What does it do?" Aurelia looked up at him with gentle eyes. "It gives control, not power to rule others, but power to protect." She closed her fingers around the shard, and the lights dimmed to a peaceful glow. For the first time in her life, Aurelia felt strong. Not because she was a dragon princess, not because she came from a royal line, but because something ancient and wise had chosen her for who she truly was. And Jackson, watching her in the soft light, felt something awaken inside himself too. Something that whispered that he wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was standing beside someone who held hidden power. And together, they were about to change everything. Aurelia and Jackson stood in the glowing chamber for several quiet minutes, letting the soft pulse of the ship calm their nerves. But far above them, deep inside the Imperial Palace, someone else felt that same pulse, and he felt it like a strike to the heart. The Dragon Emperor rose from his throne with a furious growl. His dark eyes flashed as the ancient sensors across the Empire lit up. Their message was clear. The forgotten ship had awakened, and someone had triggered its heart. "That ship belongs to my bloodline," the Emperor growled. "No one else has the right to touch it." One of his guards trembled. "Your Majesty, the signal shows a strange pattern. It does not match your energy. It is softer." "Softer?" The Emperor's voice grew sharp. "Then it is her, my failed daughter." His rage filled the hall like fire. He had sent Aurelia away to prove a point. He had wanted her to feel small, weak, unworthy. And now she dared to awaken the ship that even he could not control? The thought made his claws dig into the throne's armrest. "Prepare the storm riders," he ordered. "I want her brought to me, alive but humiliated." His voice dropped to a cold whisper. "And I want the human mechanic executed." Back inside the ship, Aurelia suddenly shivered. The shard in her hand dimmed for a moment. Jackson noticed. "Are you okay?" "I felt something," she whispered. "A wave of anger. Very strong. Very close." Jackson frowned. "Your father?" She nodded slowly. Before he could say more, the ship shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Heavy footsteps echoed through the hull. Too many to count. Jackson ran to a panel and checked the outside feeds. His eyes went wide. "Aurelia, there are dragon soldiers outside. A whole squad. Your father sent them." Aurelia's heartbeat quickened. "He doesn't want the ship awakened." "No," Jackson said. "He wants to take it away from you." They ran through the hallway, following the mist trail back to the main deck. The ancient lights flickered and brightened as they passed, as if the ship was guiding them. The moment they reached the central platform, a loud crash hit the outer hull. A metallic hiss filled the air. "They're trying to cut their way in," Jackson shouted. Aurelia stood still, her hand tight around the glowing shard. "He won't let me choose my own path. He never has." Jackson stepped in front of her. "Then let's stop running. You've got something he doesn't." Aurelia met his eyes. "What?" "Something real," Jackson said. "The ship chose you because you care. Because you don't want to control anyone." A second crash hit the hull, closer this time. Jackson grabbed her hand. "What does a shard do? Can it help us?" Aurelia closed her eyes and focused. The shard warmed in her palm. A soft voice, not quite sound, not quite thought, flowed through her mind. "It says I can link with the ship," she said, "but only if I trust myself." Jackson squeezed her hand. "Then trust yourself." "I already do." Another crash. The door bent inward. A dragon soldier roared from outside. Aurelia lifted the shard. Light rose around her like a shield. The floor beneath them hummed. The ship reacted, waking fully, its old systems alive again. The voice whispered again. "Guide us. Defend what is yours." Aurelia took a deep breath. "I'm ready." A blinding flash burst from the shard. The ship's walls glowed like living metal. Every symbol lit up at once. Then the door exploded open. Dragon soldiers stormed inside, armored and armed with energy blades. They charged forward, But the moment they crossed the threshold, the ship pushed them back with a sudden blast of force. They crashed into the sand outside, shocked and confused. Jackson couldn't believe his eyes. "You're controlling the ship." "No," Aurelia whispered. "We are working together." Outside, more soldiers gathered. Then a shadow fell over the ground. A massive Imperial Skystorm cruiser descended, its engines shaking the air. Aurelia looked up and felt her stomach twist. Her father had arrived. The cruiser landed with a heavy thud. The Emperor stepped out, tall and glowing with harsh firelight. His wings cast a sharp shadow across the sand. His eyes fixed on Aurelia with fury and disbelief. "You dare touch what is mine!" he shouted. Aurelia felt her hands tremble, but she did not step back. The ship hummed behind her, lifting panels and lights like a guardian waking from sleep. "This ship is not yours," she said softly. "It never was. It belongs to someone who chooses to protect, not control." The Emperor snarled. "You are weak. You were born wrong. You will always be wrong." Jackson stepped forward, standing beside her without fear. "You're wrong," he said. "She's stronger than you'll ever be." The Emperor's rage burned brighter. He raised his claws. The soldiers prepared to strike. And behind Aurelia, the ship opened its wings like a rising titan, ready to defend its chosen guide. The Emperor had come to break her spirit, but he was about to discover that the daughter he called weak was not weak at all, and she was no longer alone. Aurelia stood on the glowing platform, the ancient ship behind her like a living shield. The Emperor faced her, flames rising around his armor, his soldiers waiting for his order. Jackson stayed by Aurelia's side, steady and calm, even though the air shook with tension. The ship hummed gently, as if telling Aurelia it was ready. But instead of attacking, Aurelia stepped forward. She could feel her heartbeat slowing. Her fear became quiet. She had spent her whole life shrinking around her father, trying not to upset him. But this moment felt different. She was no longer standing alone in a cold palace. She had found someone who saw her, not as a shame or a failure, but as someone who mattered. "Father," she said softly, "I don't want to fight you." The Emperor stiffened, surprised. "You dare speak to me with calm, after defying my order?" Aurelia shook her head. "I didn't come here to defy you. I came here to live my own life." Her words floated across the quiet field of sand. Even the soldiers looked unsure. "You are my daughter," the Emperor growled. "Your life belongs to my command." Jackson stepped forward. "She's not a tool. She's a person." Several soldiers turned toward him, confused and irritated. A human speaking to the Emperor like that was unheard of, but Jackson didn't flinch. The Emperor raised a hand. "Human, do you think you can stand in my way?" "No," Jackson said. "I think she can stand in your way. And she finally has someone standing with her." Aurelia felt the ship hum in agreement. The shard in her hand glowed brighter. The Emperor's anger faltered. It wasn't fear, it was confusion. Aurelia had never looked him in the eyes this long. She had never raised her voice. She had never spoken about her own choices. "You were supposed to be weak," the Emperor said quietly. "Sending you away was meant to hide you." Aurelia nodded slowly. "I know. You didn't want the other clans to see me. You didn't want them to see a daughter who wasn't like you." The Emperor's jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. "But I found something you never gave me," Aurelia said. "A chance to learn who I am. A chance to grow." Behind her, the ship opened its side structures like wings. The lines along its body glowed in warm white, not battle red. It wasn't attacking. It was simply showing that she was its bonded guide. The Emperor's eyes widened. "The ship accepts you?" "That ship never accepted me." Aurelia lowered her head gently. "Maybe that is because the ship wanted someone who leads with kindness, not force." Silence spread through the desert. Even the wind stopped for a moment. Jackson placed a hand on Aurelia's shoulder. "You're stronger than you think." She took a steady breath and faced her father again. "I'm not asking to take your throne," she said. "I'm asking for my freedom. Let me build my own future." Her voice didn't shake, not even once. The Emperor stepped back. His soldiers looked at him, confused. They expected rage. They expected a command. But the Emperor saw something he had never seen before, his daughter standing without fear. "You choose a human?" he said, disbelief in his tone. Aurelia smiled faintly. "I choose the people who believe in me." He just happened to be the first one. Jackson chuckled softly, happy to be the first. The Emperor looked between his daughter and the human mechanic. Two people he thought were powerless, yet they were standing in front of an awakened ancient ship, protected by its energy and united by trust. He could destroy the ship. He could attack Jackson. He could try to drag Aurelia back to the palace. But for the first time, he hesitated. "Aurelia," he said at last, "if I let you go, you will not return." "I know," she whispered, "but I will not disappear. I will build something new, something better." Her father lowered his hand. His wings softened and folded behind him. The flames around him faded. A single command slipped from his lips. "Stand down." The soldiers immediately stepped back. The Emperor stared at Aurelia a moment longer. "If you fail, the clans will laugh at me." Aurelia smiled softly. "And if I succeed?" He turned away, staring at the horizon. "Then they will fear me for letting you go." That was the closest he could come to giving his blessing. Aurelia didn't push for more. The Emperor boarded his cruiser and lifted into the sky without another word. The soldiers followed. In minutes, the desert was quiet again. Aurelia let out a shaky breath. Her legs almost gave out, but Jackson caught her. "You did it," he said. "You really did it." She laughed nervously. "I didn't fight him." "You didn't need to," Jackson said. "Humans don't always win with strength. Sometimes we win with heart." The ship pulsed softly behind them, acknowledging the truth of his words. Aurelia looked at Jackson, then at the ship, then at the open sky. Her life was finally hers. "Jackson," she said, "let's build a home here, a place where no one has to feel small." He grinned. "You're the guide. I'm the mechanic. We'll make it work." Together, they walked into the ship, the first steps of a new future, shaped not by fear or pride, but by the quiet courage that humanity carried. HFY. Humanity, once again, changed the galaxy not with power, but with kindness,